Welcome to the Dragon's Library, your source for games, movies, shows, and more. Hello everybody and welcome back to the Dragon's Library. Today we are discussing Resident Evil. No, not the 1996 landmark survival horror game. And also not the 2002 action horror film starring Mila Jovovich. I'm saving that one for a special occasion. No, instead I'm reviewing the new TV series that was released on Netflix, also called Resident Evil, because apparently Capcom just enjoys infuriating search results. Anyway, it's another attempt to adapt Capcom's famous video game series to live action. This new Netflix show definitely tried something, but we will get there soon. First, let's go over the basics of the plot. And before I begin, please keep in mind that any named characters from this game are likely to be completely different. So please, do not give it at me. I am only the messenger. If you have some objection, save it for later. So, this series follows two plot lines, one in 2022 and the other in the post-apocalyptic 2023, or 2036. As Jade Wesker, yes, we will get to it, daughter of Albert Wesker, I said we'll get to it, has to deal with the release and fallout of the T-virus. In the past, her and her sister Billy uncovered their father's secrets, work, and his, hidden clandestine work with the Umbrella Corporation, because it's always a freaking Umbrella Corporation, after moving to a new town. Meanwhile, in the post-apocalypse, Jade tries to study the virus while being hunted by Umbrella. The cast includes Ella Balinska as Jade, Adeline Rudolph as Billy, Paulo Nunez as Evelyn, the head of Umbrella, and Lance Reddick as Albert Wesker. The cast does a remarkably good job given the material. They're definitely not the problem in this. Ella and Adeline have a good banter, and I can definitely buy them as sisters. The only name I actually knew about before I went into this was Reddick, because he played Charon in the John Wick movies, which are a lot of fun. Paulo Nunez also does a good job as Evelyn. She's a very hateable villain, and the twist with her was dumb, but at least she gets to have some fun acting with it, so, hey, whatever. Anyway, all in all, pretty good job. Yeah, these actors are doing a decent job. I would even say sometimes they have good performances. It's not their fault. This is a script. People tried to adapt a Resident Evil series, and apparently you can't do that right. I don't know why. Anyway, the relationship between Jade and Billy is mostly on point, and my problems I have near the end come down to the writing, again, not the actors. As for the technical side, the directing is overall competent, some fun shots here or there, but the effects are very much on a TV budget. However, I will say they do a pretty good job with it. The few CGI monsters they have look really fake when they're on screen, but to the show's credit, these effects are mostly hidden in shadows, usually only showing up for like a few seconds, like for a single killer show. Like with the Lickers, they mostly had people getting picked off in the shadows, and there was only like one Licker that actually popped in on screen, and then all the others were hidden by shadow the rest of the time. They did something similar with a giant caterpillar early on, where it was mostly causing these earthquakes and causing a lot of tension. Then it popped out for a few seconds and then died. Basically, they used them indirectly to cause a lot more tension, which is actually a lot more effective. So I got them points for understanding the limitations of what they're working with, which is better than a lot of old Resident Evil series that were like, yeah, the bad CGI can just be on screen all the time. It's okay. Nobody cares. I mean, I watched all the Resident Evil movies, so apparently I didn't care. As for the zombies, they're fine, I guess. They don't really do anything interesting with it. They're mostly derivative and basically everywhere that matters. The whole, there's one intelligent one leading the others. The whole, all the scenes are derivative, really. It's, But they're zombies. Do you expect originality from that anymore? They kind of worn that trope into the ground these days. Okay, so with all of that out of the way, let's discuss this story, because I really need to pick this apart, even in the pre-spoiler section. Alright, so it's kind of a mess, and quite frankly, there is a very clear reason for that. And I'm going to say this, and some people might not like it. This did not need to be a Resident Evil show. In fact, it's worse for being a Resident Evil show. I thought I was saying it might be worse, but no. This is worse for being a Resident Evil show. The references to the past games and explain the changes to characters such as Albert Wesker to make them fit this story only detract from what is mostly a mostly formulaic, but at least fast-paced and enjoyable zombie apocalypse story. The constant flashbacks to the past, although interesting in certain aspects, and if they had been relegated to small segments as opposed to an ongoing secondary narrative, were interesting. But all the attempts to fit into Resident Evil as a franchise just made this a worse show. The plotline got overly convoluted because Resident Evil plotlines can never be simple, and because trying to fit all these characters in here in this specific arrangement, like, you try to make Albert Wesker a father figure, okay? You're going to have to do some heavy narrative lifting to make that work. And I don't really see why you did it. You didn't even need her father to be Albert Wesker. There are plenty of obsessed scientist characters working with Umbrella, many of which survived the original Raccoon City event, that you could have had in place of this. Like, there were like 4 of them. There are dozens of characters just like this Albert Wesker in the Resident Evil series. But for some reason, they wanted to be Wesker, and just everything involved in fitting that together just makes this a worse show. If you stripped all the Resident Evil branding off this, it would be slightly generic, yes. But I think you would actually have a better product. And that's just my problem with this. It's so, there's not a reason for this to exist. This show could have existed as a fun zombie apocalypse movie with some interesting themes and a cool aesthetic. At the very least, I'll give it that. With the flashback scenes. I'll get to those in a minute. But the whole Resident Evil, trying to slap Resident Evil on us, it feels like they had this good zombie show, and they had the Resident Evil branding, and they're like, oh, that's a cool script. You know what? Make these changes and make it fit the Resident Evil timeline. Go. And it's just like, why? Like, you can tell other stories. I'm still waiting for the Resident Evil movie I've always wanted. What I want them to do is put the characters back in the house from the first game and turn it into a horror story where the characters are trapped in a house because zombie dogs chase them in there. You know, send the STARS team into the house to investigate. And you got a whole TV series of them trying to get, follow the house. You got multiple plot lines you can cover, so you can have multiple characters investigating things at the same time. You got giant animal monsters. You got crazy zombies all over the place. You got secret labs and conspiracies. You have an entire plot right there just begging for a TV show adaptation. And they just won't do it for some reason. And it's driving me mad. Sorry, I had to get that out of the way because I really do think just put Resident Evil in an evil resident. Put them in an evil house. It's not that complicated. Sorry, I'm getting off topic. Beside the point, this is my main problem with it. Now, I will say there are some positives about this show. In the flashback scenes, you see the kids moving into a new neighborhood, and it's essentially a company town. And gotta admit, the person who did the aesthetic for this, on point. The entire Umbrella town is like this sheen white, like all the houses are these prefabbed, identical, like think Suburbia, but like if it was a layer of Dante's Inferno. All the houses are pure white and they all look identical to the point where they even find a basement because one of the characters is like, oh no, when you're building your house, you only get 2 options and both of them have a basement. It's like, wait, we have a basement? It's like, yes, all the houses have a basement because they were all the same 2 houses prefabbed a dozen times over miles. It's like this stark white thing where there are cameras literally everywhere and there's facial recognition all the time. And even the kids' movements are constantly being tracked. It's literally a dystopia. Like, Umbrella created a company town dystopia over the corpse of the city they nuked. It is a killer aesthetic. I gotta give them that. You know what? I give you that. The creepy corporation watching everything. This looks like something out of Black Mirror. It's really good. I like it a lot. But it doesn't really have a connection to the zombie apocalypse nonsense. Like, these literally feel like 2 disconnected stories. And yes, they try and fit them together with the girl's overarching narrative, but the worlds they live in are just so... she's living in the future, it's basically Mad Max land, like, literally just Mad Max land. But in the past, it's just this sheen white, it's like, oh, the past glory, but it's like dystopian past. Like, this is dystopian. This is a surveillance state where you live in a company town where everyone in the town is working for Umbrella, and you're essentially going to live there forever. Like, you have 2 cool dystopias. You have a dystopia and an apocalypse. You try to make them both work, okay? Either have girls uncover the zombie apocalypse, the zombie virus outbreak thing and watch the outbreak happen in this area, and then the government nukes it or whatever, and that's, don't be the surveillance state. or do the cool, badass, lone wanderer thing, and she had the flashback to the weird dystopian place. You can still have that aesthetic, but you can't just have it running past the main plot. It's just frustrating. Because I see good ideas. I see interesting things. Like I said, this neighborhood, this whole umbrella company town where everything's being tracked all the time, looks like something out of Black Mirror. Like even the school, even the kids' Wi-Fi at home and at the school is heavily firewalled to prevent them from going to any place Umbrella doesn't want. Umbrella has their own freaking secret police in the place. It's really cool, but it has like no bearing on the overarching later plot, and the whole surveillance state thing doesn't really come up that much. Aside from the fact that Umbrella has essentially taken over other places and they're working with drones now. Like, it doesn't really come back to a theme, if that makes sense. Now there is something about that in the twist, but I'm not going to talk about it here. I'll talk about it in the spoiler section. I will say that twist is really stupid. Yes, it's paid off. Yes, they set it up. It's still dumb. Okay? And the character's actions just come across as nonsensical as a result. Anyway, moving on from that, I did also like the guy who hunts, Jade down for the first half. Essentially, the first half, you have this, like, fat Umbrella corporate stooge who has a bunch of armed guards with him. And there's a big twist with him. So, at first, you think he's this really fat guy who's constantly, like, out of breath and having to, like, mop sweat off his face, and he's followed by all these professional guards. And he shoots people in the face, but he does it, like, this pathetic way. It's, like, awesome. And it's just like, you are such a douche. I hope you get killed soon. But then he and Jade have to work together to get free of this, like, weirdo truther cult. And he's basically essentially like, look, I work for Umbrella. I don't really care about what the upper management wants. I do it so I get my job. Help me get out of here. And I will say you died. So they won't hunt you anymore. Or at least I think you died. I'll, say it in a way that makes it ambiguous, but makes it very clear I'm pretty sure you dead. I get to go home, be with my dogs again. You get to go to your, university weird survivalist cult who's trying to rebuild humanity. And we both win. It's like, okay, so your guards are dead. How do you think you're gonna help me? And he just whips out his pistols and guns and starts going, like, pay him. It's like, holy shit, is he actually competent? I'm not used to the, portly fellow being actually competent. Like, he's an actual badass. I'm not even joking. The scene where he's just taking on the whole cult full of zombies was just, like, genuinely impressive. I just had to, like, go, like, wow. You know what? He's a dick, an asshole, and kind of lame. But man, can he kick some zombie ass. So yeah, that was a pleasant surprise. It was a nice trope subversion. It's about as good as you get here. But it was definitely a payoff moment. Unfortunately, after that, the series is just kind of all downhill. Anyway, there's there are all the standard plot lines. Oh, she has to smuggle herself across the river without Umbrella Gang knows and pass a zombie horde area. They take this, secret smuggling area, but they get disrupted. They go off on their own. She's working with this family and they got this kid. And it's like, oh no, the kid's actually been infected the whole time. And the dad's dead now. And the mom just wants to stay there and die with her. It's like, yeah. We've seen these before. We've seen all this before. I called the kid being infected, like, from the very beginning. Like, the moment I saw him, I was like, oh, he's already infected, isn't he? Like, the way he was acting, at first I thought it was just child actor, and then, like, the brightness thing is just like, oh, no, he's infected. But, sorry, that was kind of a spoiler, wasn't it? Oopsies. Look, it's not that big a deal. Like, this show, you're not gonna miss it. Like, I genuinely don't really feel bad for spoiling this show, because, quite frankly, unless you really want to see everything Resident Evil, you don't really need to see this. It's just okay. It's popcorn media. Something you put on in the background while you're working on something. That's how I watched it. I was writing, doing some drawing, and doing some coding while I was watching this. Not exactly the landmark story of the ages. Anyway, like I said, this show is just okay. It has some cool aesthetics with the weird dystopian company town look that Umbrella had going on in the past sequence, but they drag out way too long. That dragging out is mostly used to explain things about Albert Wesker and why he's like this and not like the, weird supervillain Albert Wesker we see in the show. And yes, it all gets explained, but it's not really satisfying. It's just kind of like, really? You're doing this just to fit, like, again, it's them trying to fit a story that did not fit the material, and I just feel like it suffers short. Or even, like, you could have had this fit the material, just not have her be Albert Wesker's star. I do not understand what the obsession with Albert Wesker was in this. Maybe the writer just really liked the character. I don't know. Anyway, with that out of the way, well, we are moving on to the rating, and I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. It's not terrible. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. Quite frankly, there's a lot worse Resident Evil media than this. I've seen all the animated movies, and the live-action ones. Resident Evil 7 and 6 were 1,000 times worse than this. And anyone who says this is bad is, like, have you seen the material? This is a step up for Resident Evil, quite frankly. When it comes to, like, live-action adaptations. But, personally, I still can't recommend it. It doesn't feel like they made a good Resident Evil show, if that makes sense. It feels like they made a decent show, and then made it worse by slapping the Resident Evil logo on it. But because that's still better than the other stuff that's come out, it's an improvement. Like, it still feels like a loss, if that makes sense. So like I said, I'm going to give this a 6 out of 10. Don't bother seeing this. It's not worth your time. Again, if you like zombie movies, sure, go for it. There's enough zombie movies to fill you up, but, like, again, if you're really desperate for something, it's not offensively bad. And it's definitely good for whiling away a few hours. There are a few cool scenes. There's some decent theming with the dystopia, flashback settings, even if they drag out too long. So, yeah, 6 out of 10. Probably pass this one. Alright, moving on from there. That's my final rating on that. We're gonna move on to the spoiler section. So I can get that out of the way, and then I can head to bed, because I'm tired as shit. Sorry, I'm recording this at night right before I go to bed. Wonderful. Okay. So, 3, 2, 1, spoilers! So, where to start with this nonsense? Okay, so first of all, Albert Wesker. For anyone who knows the Capcom games, Albert Wesker is essentially a supervillain. He was an Umbrella soldier. He got infected with the T-virus, but didn't turn into a zombie. He essentially turned into a super soldier / vampire / who even gives a shit at this point. Anyway, he was essentially a trench coat wearing psychopath supervillain that did all kinds of cool ninja flips and nonsense. Like, he's not exactly a character you're supposed to take seriously. The Albert Wesker in this show is a nerdy kind of scientist with a slightly dark side, but not like supervillain Wesker. He also has 2 daughters he's injecting their blood with. It later turns out he's a clone. So basically, the supervillain Albert Wesker we know made a bunch of clones. Yeah, I know, we're dragging clones into this. That's always a good sign. Just ask Spider-Man. Anyhow, he made a bunch of clones of himself, and after Umbrella found out, he tried to kill them all, but there were like 3 of them that survived, and the Albert Wesker we follow is one of them that the Umbrella Corporation saved and sort of like let start a new life as long as he worked for them, because Albert Wesker was a member of the original Albert Wesker anyway, was a member of the original Umbrella founding team that studied the T-virus. So he's actually super scientist too, I guess. And this Albert Wesker had also studied working for the original. But since he was grown using advanced aging for his cloning, and that's causing him to degenerate over time. So he had these 2 children, Billy and Jade, genetically engineered so that their blood would be compatible in such a way that he could essentially keep injecting himself with their blood in order to stave off the effects. Basically, he raises 2 girls, and he also gets to live a normal lifespan. Meanwhile, Umbrella helped him do this so they could have a super scientist on their payroll, which, fine, I guess you were trying to set up Albert Wesker because you're so... Alright, look, I'm just going to say something that I should have said earlier. This feels like fanfiction. There's no nice way to say this. This feels like fanfiction. And not the well-written kind of fanfiction. The kind of sloppily written kind of fanfiction. Now, for those of you who have listened to me in the past, I may have dropped some hints that I read fanfiction from time to time. Now, before you laugh, there is good fanfiction out there. However, it makes up about 1% or 0.01%, if you're being really harsh, percent of all fanfiction ever. Perhaps less than that. I would say, actually, no. You know what? 1 hour of 5,000 fanfictions is probably good. 1 hour and 5,000 on average. That is a horrifying statistic. Okay? I'm just gonna say it. There is a lot of trash. And you see a lot of repeating plot lines, and this... look, I'm just gonna be honest. It feels like somebody entered their OC, do not steal. Oh, look, she's a super badass daughter, Albert Wesker. And it's just like, it's not written like that, but the way the plot is set up, it just feels so fanficky. It's just, it almost hurts me. Like, it almost physically hurts me to read this, plot line for the scripted section of my review. God, it was, And like, there's nothing wrong with that objectively as long as you write a good story. But it's the kind of, like, fanfic plot where it's like, you could have written this without the fanfiction, but you're, like, obsessing or idolizing a character. In this case, it was Albert Wesker. This author just really wanted Jade Wesker, daughter of Albert Wesker, the badass from Resident Evil, has to face down the zombie apocalypse on her own while dealing with her trauma of her twin genetically engineered sister. You hear this plotline. You hear what I'm saying, right? This is batshit insane. So yes, I do have problems. And I feel like every part of where they mish this with Resident Evil just comes back to haunt you. Anyway, the way the zombie apocalypse ends up getting kicked off is they've been playing around with this new drug called Joy, which is supposed to be like this super antidepressant that they're also hoping to market as just a everyday pill you take that also might make people susceptible to subliminal messaging they can use to, maybe enslave mankind because we're an evil corporation. It's mostly the CEO who wants that, but whatever. However, Albert Wesker is working on the project because it uses a mutated strain of the T-virus that is slightly unstable. And for once, someone named Albert Wesker is the voice of goddamn reason. Because he keeps telling them, look, it's unstable. Even one zombie could cause an outbreak, and we nuked a city to stop the last outbreak. This is not a good idea. I need to stabilize this before we can do it. But the CEO's just like, no. I stake my career on Joy. You're getting that ready for market now. Of course, that doesn't end well, and it ends up, accidentally causing a zombie outbreak. Because what are the odds that a 1 in 3,000 reaction, what are the odds? And what are those odds to $1 trillion designer drug? That's $1 trillion, boardroom. It is like, I gotta give this show one thing. It really does show you just how dumb people can be when there's a lot of money on the line. Like, all the investors, when they first hear about the zombie apocalypse potential, the T-virus and everything like that, they're like, excuse me, we live on this planet. Are you out of your goddamn mind? Like, I actually really like that Evelyn is actually called crazy by some of the boardroom members. Like, they actively are like, look, we love money, and we want this company to make billions of dollars off a single drug. However, are you out of your goddamn mind? Zombie apocalypse? Do you remember what happened the last time we had an outbreak of the goddamn T-virus? We had to nuke a city, and the government's still on us about that. And I just loved that, because you don't actually, because Umbrella almost feels like a company run by evil idiots at times, and seeing this moment of everybody looking at Evelyn like, are you insane? And her motives are very, very reasonable, because like the chances of it happening, most people would have to take like 3,000 of the pills to have a bad reaction turn, in a human at least. But there is mild chance of it, and he's really nervous about it. So he's like, all right, fine, get it stable. And we're rushing it to market, so you better have it stable soon. And the others are just kind of like, well, we can mind control people with it, and okay, that's really creepy, Evelyn, yeah, but $1 trillion drug. $1 trillion. And you get the feeling they're like, yes, ethics and general safety. On the other hand, wealth, power, and $1 trillion. Sorry, safety. You gotta go step off to the side for a second. And you really get the sense that they thought about it and decided, what's the worst that can happen? We've done stupid stuff before, and it's usually paid off. And I just had to look at the boardroom, it's just like, what's the worst? You know what? We can take a few risks. And it's just like, wow, this is how our planet gets fucked over every day, isn't it? Like, this is how the world ends, isn't it? Just a bunch of people being really stupid and greedy. Damn. Fucking Resident Evil predicted it. So yeah, I there are parts of this show I like. The dumb boardroom stuff, the initial scenes with the surveillance state, suburbia. The post-apocalypse sections are pretty good. I like how she's like observing the zombies and feels like she's in a routine with it. When the Umbrella's chasing her, they actually come across as like really dangerous. And all the people who try and cut deals with them come across as really stupid because the first thing they do every time somebody tries to cut a deal with them is immediately kill them and then kill all the witnesses. So yeah. Like I said, this show is dumb. It has a lot of problems, but if you turn your brain off, enjoy the ride, and just kind of laugh along with it, it's fine. It'll do. But yeah, that's basically all I have to say until we get to the final plot twist. Plot twist. Oh God, I've been waiting to tear into this all week. Okay, so Evelyn, the leader, has been chasing down Jade for a while, and her sister Billy is working with her. Now, Billy lets Jade go, but ends up planting a tracking device in her so she can, track her down, get to her secret hideout with the Resistance. They're called the University because they collect old world knowledge. Umbrella wants to burn the old world down so they're the only authority. Essentially, they wanted 1984 this shit. Anyway, it's eventually revealed, though, that when Billy and Evelyn are in her room, Jade is brought in there and then left alone with her, and then she starts acting really weird, like she's a puppet, and you suddenly remember that they were working on that mind control drug, and it turns out Billy's her puppet master. She turned on Evelyn shortly after Jade left them a while back, shortly after the, whole apocalypse thing started. And after a while, Billy got infected with the T-virus, and she's sort of like Albert Wesker, like she's a super soldier ruled by the T-virus because it didn't turn her because of her DNA. And she got, it was like, wait, why am I taking orders from her? So she, drugged her up, hit a bunch of electrodes on her brain, and now is pumping her around from an iPad. It's effective, whatever, but like, the plot twist is just dumb. It's like, we knew Billy wasn't trustworthy, but like, the whole Evelyn mind control thing is just like, why is this here? Why is it here? Like, I'm genuinely asking, what purpose does this serve in the plot aside from a dumb twist? Yes, it's set up with that one scene with the stupid dog, but what is the point of this shit? And then afterwards, Jade ends up revealing that she came with a backup plan as well because they're going to destroy the ship where her friends are on. So she smashes this vial that turns into like a zombie attracting. It's basically a zombie lure, and the base, like the little outpost they had Umbrella had established gets overwhelmed. And there's this fence surrounding the last tent where Jade and Billy and I guess Evelyn, who's basically just like a brain dead puppet at this point, are staying. And they're just like, the hordes are coming in. The resistance leaders in the university get away. You got Jade's daughter going like, mommy, mommy. And, obviously you got Jade's like husband, her, all at the resistance ship. And they're all like, Jade, your sacrifice will mean something. And then Jade just, grabs out Billy's hand because we gotta have an emotional core to this, even though they really haven't resolved their issues, so I don't know what the hell's going on there. And then it's like smash cut to a few reveals, like they have a giant alligator moon that the university never used because we gotta save that for season 2. And I'm like, it's pretty ballsy of you to think you're gonna get a season 2 out of this, but okay. Netflix has canceled shows for less, let's be honest. Yeah. That's Resident Evil, the TV series, not the game or the movie. Do with this information as you will, because I don't really think any of you want to check it out yourselves. Alright. So, moving on from that, we have our announcements. If you're listening to this on Buzzsprout, then this week I will be playing Stray. For the 2 days, I'm going to be playing Stray. Not the whole game, just the first 2 days. If you're watching this on YouTube, then last week I streamed Stray. It's going to be on Tuesday, Thursday. That's when I stream. The 2 of every 3 weeks, I stream Thursday and Friday, 6:30. I'll be posting it up on Twitch sometime the day before, so it'll all be up there and ready. And yeah, I'm looking forward to playing Stray. It's going to come out tomorrow, so I'm really excited about it. That'll be for the 19th and the 21st, for those of you who don't know. July 19th, July 21st. 6:30 p.m. Central Standard Time. Check me out on the YouTube channel and also Twitch. Links are in the description. In addition to that, my next review will be for Ordinary Monsters if everything goes as planned and I don't get delayed again. Sorry, this has been taking a while. It's a long book. It's like a 25-hour audiobook. It's been taking a while for me to go through it, and I've been a little busier than usual. Plus, I keep forgetting to listen to it and end up turning on Heartstrikers again. Sorry. I have a problem, I know. But dragons. I do like Ordinary Monsters. I'm through about, currently I think I'm 12 hours in. It's a good book. Yeah, it's a good book so far. I will definitely have things to say on it, I think, as long as it goes in some of the directions I think it's going to go. So, yeah. Really like it. It's pretty intense, though. It's going to have some content warnings. That's about it. Afterwards, I will most likely be reviewing another show in the distant future. I have a few things lined up. We'll see where that goes. See you guys next time. Bye. I hope you enjoyed listening to this episode, and thank you for listening to The Dragon's Library. Please subscribe to this podcast to be notified of new episodes. The Dragon's Library releases new episodes Tuesday and Friday each week, and you can follow us on Twitter at dragon_library2. If you want to suggest an episode topic, my email is in the description below. And as always, thank you so much for all your support.